That's what we try to do. Yes, sir.
Okay, on your proposed legislation on tax relief, how is the alternative minimum tax going to help out the middle taxpayer?
Oh, very big. In fact, I was surprised to see that in our district, about 42,000 people benefit from the alternative minimum tax. What the alternative minimum tax will allows you to do is claim your mortgage interest and claim your taxes on your federal income tax. And that's very, very important to us as New Yorkers, because, especially to us here, because so many people up in our area own their own home. And many people obviously have interest on their mortgage, and many people have, obviously pay a significant amount of local property taxes. So the AMT allows people to claim their interest, their mortgage interest, and their taxes, their property taxes, on their federal income tax. So it's really important, the AMT, to middle class more than anybody else.
Well, follow up on that.
Yes.
If you don't claim exemptions and you take a standard deduction, there's only $1,000 allowed for that portion in there under the tax bill.
But for those who, for the other ones, yeah, for there, it doesn't affect it. But as I said, there's about 42,000 people in the 24th Congressional District that benefit from the AMT because they itemize. So it really is a big, big thing. Not for everybody, but for a lot of the families. So that's okay. Okay. Sir, you're next.
Just a personal comment very quickly. I got involved in politics years and years ago when Mike Arcuri was a fresh face in Utica. And I was impressed with this.
I look
like your father, probably. But the point is, he was a shining, beacon in the Democratic Party, and the Democratic Party was going through some very difficult times. And suddenly he disappeared. And I'm like, whatever happened to Mike Arcuri? He was like who we looked to. And what's the dirt on Arcuri? I mean, really, I would ask the other politicians, and they say, well, the problem with that Arcuri guy is he won't play ball. He's got a heart. They couldn't manipulate the guy. He had too much integrity, and that was the dirt. And I'm thinking, well, I would like to have that. Behind my back, that's my biggest criticism. I got too much integrity. I think that's pretty good. Well, I think the integrity helped, because the thing that was a rap on Arcuri, then people must have thought, well, it might be nice to have a DA with a lot of integrity. So maybe integrity isn't such a bad thing. And so people say, well, you got to sell your soul to get to Washington. Well, I mean, we got a congressman. If you have an honest disagreement with him, at least you know it's honest. And so I just feel good. And I'm going to disagree with Mike and others, as we all will. We're very knowledgeable people and very, very strong opinions. But, just as a personal aside, in my opinion, we're blessed to have a guy there that's trying to do the right thing and has a lot of integrity. So that's just a personal aside. I just want to thank you for your service, Mike, and thank Mike Hennessy for sponsoring this, and that's my considered opinion.
Sir, you were next.
On a scale of 1 to 10, how important are the Indian issues in this state to you? And would you comment, or would you dare to comment on land of the trust?
Sure. I would say, it's in this crowd they're number one. No, seriously, yeah, absolutely. I mean, obviously the economy. It's funny because no matter where you go, the economy always trumps everything in terms of the war was the most important issue until the economy got bad, and then the economy came. I'd say it's up there one or two in terms of what I feel, and I say this not just because of the Oneida issue, but because on the other end of my district, I have the Cayuga land claim as well. So I get the very same issues, and I get there. I've been working, I finally this week was able to nail down a meeting with Ken Salazar, who's the new Secretary of the Interior. His brother serves in Congress with me, John, so I finally got John to help me out to get a meeting with Ken, and John McHugh and I are going to go sit down with him. And, look, I think that the Rhode Island case, Canasteri case, I think it was good. I'm looking at it from a couple of different perspectives. Number one is, bottom line, the court said no with respect to it. I think that the analysis that they used in terms of evaluating the tribe relative to 1936, 34, relative to 1934 was a good analysis for us. They're honing in, I think, in terms of that. I think that, look, I think that at some point, we have to figure out a way to work this thing out in a way that is beneficial. Now, it may be very difficult. It may be impossible. No. Oh, go ahead. I want to
How about just enforcing the laws?
Well, that's obviously an important part. Enforcing the law is important for the state to do. They need to do it. But some things I have control over and some things I don't. And I mean, with respect to where I am, look, I have two things that I think are critically important, two and a half things. Number one, I think that if we come to some kind of an agreement, if there ever is an agreement, there has to be some kind of reoccurring payment. I don't care what they call it, but there has to be a reoccurring payment to the localities and to the county. I do not want to get into a situation like we were in with the tobacco money. The city of Utica was in with the water money. We got a big amount of money, and eventually we used it all up. I think we need to have a continual stream of money over a period of time regularly. And I won't call it taxes. They can call it anything they want, but that is necessary because when I talk to localities, they say they need to know how much they're going to get because they need to budget for it. That's very important. It's important for taxpayers. It's important for economic development. Second thing is there has to be a cap. You cannot. Well, first off, the trust agreements were never meant to be used the way they are being used in this particular situation. That was never the intent of the way it was set up. This is why, and far be it from me to criticize a Supreme Court judge, but that's why the first day of law school they tell you never use dicta, because dicta always opens up. That was when she said, well, this would have been a trust situation. That was not part of the decision. It was dicta in the Supreme Court case. So I'm not sure and that land into trust was ever intended to be this way. If this had, and to say nothing of the fact that New York, we are one of the original colonies. It's not what, and one of the things that I'm going to tell, Secretary Salazar is, don't evaluate situations in New York the same way you cannot paint it with one broad brushstroke. West of the Mississippi is different from east of the Mississippi, and there's probably a whole lot of different places in between. And I think Canisseri, Judy, didn't it sort of this, it articulated a little difference between the different approaches. Yes. I think so. So, look, I say this, and I get heat from both sides. Having a casino the way we have, where it is, can be an enormous help to everybody. But we have to come up with some kind of agreement that works for everybody. We are neighbors. We have to figure out a way to do this. I know we can do it. I have no doubt that we can do it. We have to figure out a way to do it. The last thing that I like to do is being in the middle of a fight in a situation like this. This is not, I think, what's best for our community. So I am very hopeful that things can work out. I was certainly going to talk to Secretary Salazar this week and try to hopefully we'll get in this week and just let him know that, hey, look, please, we want to work this thing out. We can use help in working it out. But the last thing, this putting land into trust and then keeping it open-ended is about the worst possible thing that can happen. I mean, look, I can't help it, I'm a lawyer, so I have to think things through in a logical kind of lawyer way. If each of these Indian tribes in New York were to continue to expand their land claim by trust, I mean, it's going to consume huge amounts of New York State. I mean, it just creates this untenable problem, this unsolvable problem that we have if we don't get help from the federal government. They can't just continue to ignore it and think that it's going to go away. And that's going to be my message to Secretary Salazar. This is not going to go away by itself. It is only going to get worse. And it's, even if the Oneida ends here, the other, this is going to hurt the other states, and or it's going to get solved. And and I think the Supreme Court gave us some indication as to where they'll be. So hopefully something can happen before the Supreme Court gets to it.